Thank you. Good afternoon. It is my pleasure to welcome you to our 2023 Educator Summit. We're happy to be here. We have some fantastic sessions planned for you with engaging activities and speakers, and we are so proud that you are here with us. And we want you to enjoy the activities. We have signed you up for various sessions. You have that program as a part of the program that you have in your hand. And she will introduce our keynote speaker.
Thank you, Dr. Stafford. Okay, well, good evening again. And again, we are happy that you're here. And on behalf of our department chair, Dr. Medlin, and our faculty and staff of the School of Education, we bid you greetings. And we hope that you've had a wonderful Educators Day. And thank you for taking time out of your busy school and work schedules to be here. So I have the honor of introducing to you all our keynote speaker, Dr. Stephanie Johnson. Dr. Johnson is a passionate educator. She is dedicated to developing students as scholars, leaders, and good citizens. She focuses on the whole child, utilizing effective leadership, coherent instruction, family and community engagement, building professional capacity, and providing a supportive learning environment for all students, employees, and stakeholders. Dr. Johnson has served as a transformational leader in Georgia for over the past 25 years. Dr. Johnson settled in Atlanta, Georgia in 2001, where she and her husband proudly raised 3 wonderful children. She began her career as a teacher and transitioned to counseling and leadership. As a principal, she led the turnaround efforts in several Atlanta public schools. They dubbed her Mission Impossible. They dubbed her the Mission Impossible principal because her efforts transformed all 9 feeder schools in Jackson, which revitalized the community. Dr. Johnson now serves as the Deputy Superintendent of Schools and District Effectiveness at the Georgia Department of Education, where she leads school improvement, professional development, and alternative education programs. She also serves as the acting chief turnaround officer for the governor's office. She earned her undergraduate degree from the University of Alabama, master's degree from the University of West Alabama, educational specialist degree from the University of South Alabama, and her Doctor of Education degree in Education Leadership and Management from Capella University. Dr. Johnson's distinguished accomplishments include completing 8 summer sessions at Harvard University's Principal Institute, Georgia Leadership Institute for School Improvement, GLISSE, Power of 100, GLISSE Summit and Boot Camp, Diamond Leadership at War College in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, School Superintendent Association, the Council of Chief State School Officers. Her improvement work over the past 2 decades includes establishing wraparound centers and services for schools, as well as building personal capacity with evidence-based internal processes. Dr. Johnson has received numerous recognitions and awards for her outstanding leadership. One notable honor was being named a finalist for the 2017 National Principal of the Year. And I want to personally thank Dr. Johnson for answering my call. Before I personally met her, I heard so many wonderful things about Dr. Johnson. I, too, have been an educator in the state of Georgia for over 25 years, and I've only heard wonderful things about Dr. Johnson and her love for education, for teaching, for learning, for supporting underserved communities and schools. And so her record truly speaks for her. And I couldn't think of a better person to come today to speak with you all. May you be inspired and motivated. Please give Dr. Johnson your undivided attention. Thank you. Thank
That was absolutely nice, and I've got to talk to my secretary. That was a long introduction, wasn't it? I'm like, you sent a long bio. I didn't mean for you to send my resume. Well, I want to tell you all, it is absolutely a privilege to be here today. This is absolutely my favorite audience to talk to because I know that you all are in the beginning stages of making the mission possible for serving our children who so deserve it. You know, one thing about it is that when we decide to become educators, we decide to take on a mission. I want you all to think about that. A mission that, you know, I say we're all going to heaven. All educators are all going to heaven. I want to tell you, your sins have been forgiven. So today, we're going to talk about empowering our educators to reach their maximum potential. And maybe we'll have a little bit of audience interaction, but I'm also going to tell you all a little bit of one of my turnaround stories that I'm hoping that you're going to enjoy or get some understanding of where you fit walking right out of college into a classroom, whether it is pre-K through 12 or even here at the collegiate level, where you fit and how you can make a big difference in the world of an entire community. And I know you say, as a teacher coming in first year, how do I make a change? How do I make a positive change? But I'm going to tell you the story of how 47 brand new teachers helped me improve an entire community in Atlanta. So here I am, and we've already gone through my introduction, so I'll keep moving. And now I'm actually the chief turnaround officer. They took the acting off and made me permanent. So I have both positions. For the state of Georgia, I get to serve as the deputy superintendent and the chief turnaround officer. And I always like to have these takeaways. Let me tell you this, because you're young. Whenever you go to a session, I always say, I determine how effective it was by the notes that I take. If I go through a session and I walk away and I don't have any takeaways, I've wasted my time. But today, the takeaways I want you to see is this story of how you as a new teacher or leader can positively transform a school community, how an application of a theory of action for effective teaching and learning, how it was applied, and strategies utilized to advance school improvement efforts that positively influence student learning. And the biggest takeaway I'm going to have for you today is I have loaded this presentation with evidence-based resources available from the Georgia Department of Ed that we have created to support classroom teachers and leaders. When you leave out of here, I'm going to make my presentation accessible for everyone, and I have all the links embedded for you to be able to build out any lesson plan with any audience that you serve, and all of the links that go to it, engagement from anything, ESOL, special ed, regular ed, gifted, I have it all in here. Okay, so I want to start here. This is my mom, who is 80 years old, and she's taught for 42 years, and she is still substitute teaching at 80 years old in a small town, Chatham, Alabama, where I grew up. One light town. Any of you all from a small town or rural town? So you know exactly how that is, but she has loved it, dedicated her life to it. We haven't had a 4th of July, and I don't know when, because she is going to be at the National Education Association Conference, supporting the retired teachers associations. And then there's me. I actually, now I'm actually 28 years in, and I started my career as a classroom teacher, decided after a couple of years I wanted to be a school counselor, then an assistant principal, and then I was actually the turnaround principal of 3 different schools, a middle school, 2 high schools. The one that I am known for is the Mission Possible Maynard Jackson High School. That's the one that was all over the media and everywhere, and that turnaround. And now work at the State Department. And I'm sharing these stories with you all because I want you to see where the beginning in a classroom starts and where it may lead you to, right? And so now I'm in government, but my mother, she ended up, of course, working at the central office and had a leadership role with English language arts, and she also was a media specialist. And on the right is my daughter, Taylor, who's in her 20s and is a classroom teacher in Atlanta Public Schools at Burgess-Peterson. So she has decided to go Metro from the start. But I want you to see it's 3 generations of teachers. This was actually this year in October. We decided to plan a lesson together. And my mom came into town, and we triple taught the lesson to my daughter's 4th grade class. And I want to just tell you this. My mom out-taught both my daughter and I. The kids were asking her, when are you coming back? When are you coming back? I was like, it's just amazing that at 80 years old, you can still engage students, which it also, a portion of that was she gave them better gifts than we did. So let me start a little bit here with the theory of action. When we decide, of course, that we are going to do anything, right, then there has to be like a cause. And we take it through some thoughts of, if we do what, then what will be the outcome? I know you're young. You know, you kind of think, if I date him, then what will be the I'm sorry, go ahead. But anyway, but let's take this to school. Okay. So one of the things that we think about in my department is if we provide opportunities to collaborate for shared learning, then we quickly and reliably identify and assess the impact of solutions. Can y'all think about that a little bit? When you walk into any school setting, actually, when like I said, like a real life connection to like a boyfriend or whatever, you know, there typically may be some situations in which you have to create solutions, correct? And you have to think of what's the process. What are the process? What are the steps in your actions? So it's like the first steps of action planning. And if we provide strategic advice and hands-on assistance, then act on data to continuously improve our support to, when we say LEAs, that's like a local school district, resulting in evidence-based implementation. That is, again, connecting our work to you inside the school. Now, if we look at timely, actionable data and analysis, and I know you're learning about data right now in school, are you? And data impacts everything, doesn't it? It's like the beginning, you know, learning the difference in assessment and evaluation. Ongoing assessment of student learning leads to positive evaluation results, those type of things. So now you're going to detect new or missed opportunities, helping our staff, that's mine, and you, the teachers, grow and improve continuously. That's our theory of action, everyone. And I'm getting ready to I'm trying to connect you to what I'm about to talk about, utilizing our theory of action. So if you look at the research at University of Washington, in their cell, it's like the Center for Educational Leadership. You'll see where they're working across a theory of action that begins with students and goes all the way to all the components that impact students. And this is where we start with teachers. And I know some of you are probably in the beginning phases of beginning to build out your lesson plans, to be able to look to see, well, who's inside those classes? Who am I teaching? And what is going on with our students' performances inside classes? Now, you aren't quite there yet, but these are the types of thinking that we like to see our educators, you know, engage as they're preparing their lessons. As you go into a school, I want you to see these roles. So that's you, and then it moves to you as teachers, as in how are teachers instructional and staff's practices affecting student performance. That's something that you also have to think about, okay? The theory of action begins with you and looking to say, what's going on with these children? Why are they learning? What are they learning? And then to look to say, well, how is my teaching impacting their learning? And then it moves out of your hands and moves to your principals. Your principal will be the person that provides the resources and support for you, whether it's through collaborative planning or through making sure that you have, we don't utilize a lot of textbooks these days, but we utilize a lot of resources and programs and professional development. And then, of course, it moves to the central office and then the school board who makes all of the decisions. And I know that you are going to learn this, across your educational courses and all of this. But this is the main dynamic of who impacts student learning inside of school and how it all works to come all the way down and planning from then the action from left to right, from the external support, meaning your board of education. I would tell everyone, whenever you sign that contract, and your board is going to approve for you to teach inside your school district, attend the board meetings. Learn what is going on in the district. Always be aware of, these are the initiatives. These are the expectations of me as a teacher. Know what's going on inside your school district. Because anything that's coming up is going to be or have to be approved by your school board, whether it's positions, programs, summer activities, even holidays. Everything is approved at that board meeting. So now it goes to your central office. When you begin to work, you're going to have central office people who are, we call them educational experts in content areas. So let's say that you are told, I've got to teach reading to 5th grade. Now you'll have a content area expert that's going to share exactly the strategies that are evidence-based to help you improve your instructional capacity for teaching. And then it comes down to the building leader, your principal. Your principal is the one who's going to provide your evaluation. And then it goes down into you, the teachers. You're the one that's going to provide instruction. You already know that. And then it's going to impact student learning. So you see how it goes left to right, the theory of action, and how everyone has a place in there. I just wanted to share that because that's the way that we work at the State Department. We work through a theory of action and making sure that all components are considered in the decisions that we're making that go from the classroom all the way to the school board. In case anyone ever asks, what do they do at the Department of Ed? That's one of them. Okay, and then here we go. And I'm going to jump through this a little bit because I don't want to take up too much time, and I want to go over those resources. But I thought I would stop here for just a moment and ask these questions. What are the necessary skills of an effective teacher? Who would like to answer that question for me?
Hi, everyone. I'm Kennedy. Hello. I think the necessary skills for an effective teacher is you have to have patience and you have to be kind because some students are not always going to get it right the first time. So it's important to be patient and to show them grace because somebody shows you grace when you were a kid. So I think that's what you need to be effective.
That's good. All right. She gets some snaps. As Dougherty County says, she gets snaps. And I'm asking anyone else?
Hey y'all, how y'all doing? My name is Jan Samarix. I think an effective teacher is someone who knows their students. So you have to know your student. Also, you have to know yourself. So don't never be afraid to push yourself to better yourself. So an effective teacher, you have to understand when someone is trying to tell you how to improve in teaching, you need to understand and listen and don't take it very personal.
That is very good. That is awesome. Thank you very much. And I'll move to the next question. What resources do effective teachers need to improve student outcomes? Perfect. I love the audience participation.
Hello, my name is Malaysia. I think that, let me see. I feel like when you know your students, then you will know the type of resources you need. So if, for an example, if one of your students are struggling in reading, then you will do more reading activities for the class and then more specifically for that student. So have like more reading workbooks or worksheets for just in case if they have a problem with comprehension. That's one example for an improvement.
Okay, so you do have to have multiple resources sometimes in order to get it across. You're right about that. Anyone else?
My name's Kiera Washington, and I would say a supportive staff. So, like, not just your teachers, but your administration as well, being able to confront them and not confront them, but go to them when you need help in your classroom, or being able to effectively communicate things that you see need to be improved in your classroom.
It's awesome. Yay, that's really good. And I've got to come to the back at least once. Here we go.
Hello, everyone. My name is Markia. I want to also say being able to know the students' backgrounds, so like their parents, how their well-being is, because mental health is important.
I'm glad that you mentioned mental health because, you know, as a teacher, you do need to know exactly what are the resources available when you start beginning to recognize that a child may need additional support. You're right about that. Those are great interaction, everybody. So we always put this in here, is that, you know, I hear passion. I see that you're interacting. So I absolutely know that you all are going to be passionate teachers, and you're going to understand where I'm about to take this story. You just got the introduction. So here we go. Personal experience and reflections from transforming a school. I mentioned to you all that I did a transformation of 3 different schools. Sequoia Middle School, Jonesboro High School, and like I mentioned, the one that is known the most, Maynard Jackson High School. And one of the things I realized is that when you walk into that school, it's not about who's been there 30 years. It's not about who's been there 20 years. The years don't match the passion. And I'm telling you, I have watched teachers walk in with no experience who engage students better than those with 15 and 20. And you know why? They were passionate. They loved it. They believed in the children. They were able to see themselves in who they were teaching, and they wanted to have positive outcomes for children. And one thing that you can't teach, it is passion. Now, I will tell you this, you know, and I am a turnaround leader. And during my time, I have had to terminate a number of teachers. And this actually happened at that last turnaround. And it wasn't anybody new. It was people who had given up on themselves. We were not able to develop them. They had shut down to helping children to improve. And, you know, my little turnaround team, they'd be like, what made them learn to hate children? It's like they hate kids. And no matter what we did, we could not get them to connect to our purpose. The purpose is students. So we started here. Everything always comes to leadership team. One day you all will be asked to become a part of a leadership team. A leadership team is made up of teachers on your building. And you start to talk through, well, let's create this plan. Y'all have heard of school improvement plans? And you create the plans, and you say, this is the way we want our community to move forward. This is what we want for our students. This is what we want for our kids. And all of that's teacher-led. And then you take it to working, of course, with other leaders and making sure, this is an important piece I want you to remember, that if you're even in high school, then you also need to understand what's going on in the middle school and in the elementary school. Success doesn't happen overnight, and neither does failure. And the more that you collaborate in this vertical learning and planning, the better the entire community will be. Just remember that, okay? Get your friends all the way across the continuum. And that's who that was. Those were the other principals of the other schools that I knew I couldn't turn that high school around if I did not have the buy-in of all of those schools, right? We had to start, because turnaround's not 1 year. It's systemic. From that child in pre-K all the way to the child in 12th grade, we had to make a big difference. And then the community. I loved what the last speaker said today when she said you have to connect to families. You do, because even when you decide to go, then those families, those community members will still be there. And it's important as you're building out your strategies, as you're teaching children, to understand that everybody sends you their very best every day. There's not one person that keeps their best at home and send the worst to you, okay? And every single one of us want children who graduate and are successful and able to serve as productive citizens. And when we meet with our parents and we meet with the community and we make changes, then it's going to change the way they feel about school. Have y'all ever met someone and every one of their experiences in school was negative? That they don't have a thing to say good about a teacher or anyone? Well, it's our role, in my opinion, to change that. To change that so when those parents, those students come into your classroom, they have a safe environment, a safe space with somebody that believes in them. You know, in my speeches over the past few years, one of the first things I learned in dealing with a child that was foster child and had a heart situation there, you know, the average child, they only need one person in their life that's so crazy about them that they refuse to allow them to fail. And for most of us in education, it's the teacher or the social worker, somebody inside that school when they don't have anybody at home. Of course, we hope their parents will be that, but their parents won't always be that, okay? So that does add a different layer, but you use what you know, which is education. We all know education is the greatest weapon out there for our youth, right? We use that to empower our children. And I promise you, you're going to be happy, and there's no such thing as burnout whenever you are just so tuned into something that you're refusing to allow it to fail. Think about it. I couldn't burn out as a parent, right? And my mom is 80 years old, and she's still not burned out. So then I went to the community, and now I want to talk to you about the teachers. These are the teachers. Now, I did have a faculty of 156. It was a big faculty, wasn't it? But this is us deciding, the day that we decided that we were changing things, that there wasn't going to be bad behavior in our school, wasn't going to be gang violence. We were not going to be on federal list for being in the bottom in the whole state, that our children were coming to learn. They were going to come to learn in a positive learning environment, and it was going to be because of what we contributed. I talked to you all about having to make changes. One of the first things that we did was we talked to the students, and we had meeting after meeting with them and called in town halls by grade level, and we asked them, well, what are the kinds of things that you want to see here? You know, and I'll tell you, all right, so I do keep it a little real sometimes. Like, why are y'all acting a fool? These police coming up in here every Monday looking for what you all did over the weekend. Why are y'all acting like this? What is going on in the street? And so they were honest, and they started saying, can you? And then it was like, can you get us more sports here? Can you get us more extracurricular activities? They were like, can you start a bike club? Can you start a garden club? They were naming everything. And at the time, the school that I served only had 5 different sports. It was kind of the same things, like football, basketball, baseball, and that might be all. They had a track team. That was the only 4 sports that they had before 2012. And what we did was we wrote a list of everything that all of the children, that was just 9th grade, everything they said they wanted. And we went back to my young teachers, and we pulled in all of these new teachers. These are all first year, right out of college teachers that came on board with us. It ended up being 47 of them that year. But this was the ones that I went and I took pictures with whenever they were signing off on their contracts and all of that. And I got those, and I still keep these 2 pictures because those new teachers made the change. Why? They talked to students. They engaged in activities. It wasn't just sitting in a classroom with worksheets. And several of the other principals said, Because they have a list of teachers that wanted to move from their old schools, and most of them have been in like long years. And I said, I don't want them. I want brand new teachers, because I feel like if I can get people in with passion and energy, and they're fresh out of college, that we're going to be able to move things around here, because they'll be able to connect to my children. And people thought I was a little crazy at first, because I took TFA. I was in universities. I can remember sitting in Emory, and I was at all of them, Georgia State, everywhere around there, and saying, come and teach at Maynard Jackson High School. Come and teach at Maynard Jackson High School. I promise you, it's a movement. We're going to do something different. When they came on board, we added 18 Georgia High School Athletic Association events, 18 of them. Our children came off the street. They were playing golf and tennis, track. They got scholarships in all of this. Some of them, like one of them, hopefully he'll get to the NFL from University of Louisville. But what I'm saying is they started art clubs, cooking clubs. They got the garden. We were in Atlanta. They didn't even have anywhere to put the garden. They put it on top of my building. It's still there. It's a garden on top of the school because the children wanted it, and our young teachers came in, and they would say, Dr. Johnson, I'm good with archery. Dr. Johnson, I'm good with this. And we turned all of those new teachers' talents, even like writing club, poetry club. But you know what? The children appreciated it. They appreciated it so much that we pretty much lost all kinds of, we had like no discipline left. Like there was all that fighting that went on. It didn't go on anymore. The stealing, the kids not having relationships with each other, it left. The cafeteria fights, they all left. Why? Because in addition to classroom learning, they had all my young teachers who were talking to them, building relationships with them, having them with like other kids that were the same age as them, learning how to sew, learning how to cook, learning how to farm. And then they started setting up and going over to Grant Park, which is where the Atlanta Zoo is, and selling all the stuff that they were making. And then they had a little money in their pocket to do other things. Then they started creating trips for the kids to Germany and China and France and Nicaragua. I'm telling you all because these are like 21, 22-year-olds. You want to know what else happened? We came off of every federally identified list for the first time, and they didn't even remember when that school had not been in the lowest. The children started excelling academically. Why? They connected to their teachers. What I'm wanting you to get from this story is, it's the truth, first of all. The majority of those teachers are now, they're department heads. They're on the leadership team. Some of them stayed at the school, but some are actually now assistant principals and principals. Some are counselors. I've had a couple of them to reach out to me and say, you know what, I left the classroom and I'm a counselor. Remember, I told you that was my first step out of the classroom. And then some of them ended up going to law school and med school and becoming social workers. It was a lot of them. But the main thing I want to get to you is that they started their mission inside classrooms, connecting with children, connecting where they learned. I just keep thinking about, like, now all of this is running through my head because they worked so hard to change that community. That community doesn't even look the same anymore because the children are now, they are learning. The gang violence is gone. All of that was there before, it's gone. Like you walk in that school, you can't even tell that at one time it was the lowest performing school in the state of Georgia. You just can't tell because of the way the children, they walk around with a different level of confidence. And I attribute that to the experiences that my young teachers provided when they came in and decided that now they weren't just going to be in the classroom, which they were great in the classroom, but that they were going to really live, like we lived education. We lived it. They would get together, and this is not a part of my normal speech, but I can remember they were like every Friday night, they would get together to go and do things together. And I suppose they vented a little bit about, the bureaucracy of schools and all of that, but they grew together to be friends, and they planned together, And I would walk, and it would be one of them's planning period, and they would be in another one's class co-teaching. And they say, her kids didn't get it when she taught it, so I'm going to try it. I'm going to try it this time with these kids and just see. I'm just teaching with her to see if they can get it when I'm doing it. I'm like, that is like the best of collaboration, you know, where you are really connecting with the people that you work with. But I just wanted to share this story because I know within my heart, it does take a great leader to transform a school, but it takes great teachers. It actually, probably the best, oh, this is another piece, is that we started an I Am Accountable campaign. One of the things that you're going to learn when you begin to teach is that there's an accountability system in the state of Georgia. And it's called CCRPI, College and Career Readiness Performance Index. And our teachers all did I Am Accountable, and then they assigned what they were going to be accountable for. It's just kind of buying into we're going to make things better. And these were on everybody's doors with where they graduated from college. And, you know, it was just a way for us to all connect and learn each other. And then just talking about here when I just mentioned, you know, teachers account for more students' achievement gains year to year than any other factor. So when people talk, you know, it upsets me when I hear anyone bash a teacher because I know the impact of a classroom teacher. I know that without you all, it doesn't matter what initiative a district or state has. When you close that door, whatever you teach and how you interact with those kids, that is all that's going to matter. No matter what we did in collaborative planning, what we did at faculty meeting, what you do inside that classroom is going to make all the difference in the world. And I did have, there was just some common factors of exceptional teachers. You know, sometimes people do say this is a calling, don't they? Has people said that to you all? You know, becoming teachers because of both positive and negative teacher role models who shape their views of teaching and learning. Teaching is enjoyable, and they believe that learning can be just as enjoyable for their students. They set high standards both for themselves and their students. They feel a keen responsibility for their students. And one teacher made a comment that summed the depth of motivation felt by many others. There is no peace until you figure out what to do for a child who is not succeeding. You mentioned that in your comment when you said that when sometimes you have a student and they may not understand it the first time you teach it. Then what do? You have to become resourceful, right? You don't give up on them. You find another way to teach it. What do they say? Everybody can learn, but not on the same day in the same way, right? And that's where your teacher efficacy comes into play. But you see around the room, I've been able to popcorn and go right back to you all because you're already getting it, which tells me you all have some incredible instructors here. And maybe you had some good teachers along the way. Okay, and I'm not going to keep reading this to you because I want you to have time to go to your session. But this is the piece that I want you to have that I think is probably the most important of my talk today. And then I can definitely take some questions. So we have created at the Georgia Department of Ed a bucket of resources that we feel will be beneficial to all of you. And it begins here with Georgia Home Classroom. One of the questions I asked was, what is the greatest resource that you're going to need when you begin to teach? The answer to that, everyone, there's a lot of answers. Your greatest resource is access to the Georgia standards. We are in the middle of revising some of them right now. The math has already been revised, and I'm going to show you how to get to a link that is actually, you're going to give you those. Right here is your Georgia standards. Whenever you get this presentation, you click on it, it's going to take you right to the website, okay? As well as it will show you all of our announcements that come up in real time for any changes that we're making. These are just the type resources that if I were in a classroom anywhere across the state of Georgia and you get that contract and they say you're teaching 7th grade, Now, many of you will be in a district where you have district leadership that's going to pass you a unit of study or some level of instructional resources. But some of you may not. And some of you may need to just learn to enhance, because there's some flexibility around things. That's what these resources do. They're standards aligned, and they're going to help you build out your classrooms. So like I mentioned, this is going to be a link, and this is going to take you to some videos on that second one. The next one is the K-12 digital learning plans. Those are plans that have been built for every teacher in the state of Georgia, K-12, around all the standards. So if you're unsure of how to exactly build that lesson, or if you don't know that a lesson is aligned, then you click on that K-12 digital learning plan, and it's going to take you right to the lessons and all of the engagement pieces, how to incorporate special education accommodations. If you have ESOL students, then it's going to incorporate some We Can-Do descriptors in there, as well as gifted, regular ed, co-taught, whoever's in your class, there are definitely resources there. And then Let's Learn Georgia, those are recorded model lessons where you can see the video of someone actually teaching those lessons. So let's say that you're like, I see it on paper, but I'm trying to figure out how do I place this lesson within this 45-minute time frame or this 60-minute time frame. Across the state, some are 30, 60, 90. You get all types of different master schedules. Now you're going to have that through Let's Learn Georgia, and you'll be able to see exactly how to work through that lesson. And then, of course, more Watch and Learn, which is the instructional broadcast schedules for pre-K through 12th grade. I know, speaking from Justin Hill, who has placed all of these together, please go in and click on, and you'll hear other teachers talk in real time right now through PBS. Of exactly what's going on in instruction and the best tips for instructional practice in working with the broad audience of different students. Then there are also classroom conversations. I don't want to say it's a great post, but this is one that we have created where teachers talk through their struggles. And you all know, like the podcast, now when you get out there and you start student teaching, you're going to have some students who, like our friend said, may not get something the first time. They may throw a tantrum right there. You're in the middle of teaching vowels, and they are throwing a fit on the floor. Do you all know these are real-time issues that happen every single day? And as a teacher, you're sitting up in the classroom, and you're like, what on earth do? I sure can't touch them and be on the news. What's my next step? Am I right? You have real teachers in real time talking through, this is what happened, this is how I handled it. And you'll have the link to that as well. Some of you may be interested in elementary, dealing with K-5. Those are the guides and videos right there on getting ready for K-5. And it helps families also understand what children have learned and can expect to learn when they get back to school. We like that because many people, and I remember this myself with my first child. I was a teacher when my daughter got ready to go to school. And I was always a high school, middle school. And I realized I really didn't know how to help her without doing her work pretty much for her when she was like 4 and 5. Because I had always connected at a higher level with my teaching. So I had to learn myself how to be a supportive parent. This will help you in K-5 because it's going to provide resources for parents to help them at home to follow them with what you're teaching inside the classroom. So this is just another resource as you get in that classroom. And like our friend in the back mentioned, with parental involvement as a great resource, pulling parents in is one of the best resources that you can do. And then we actually have a daily calendar for teachers. This is for pre-K through 2nd grade. Anybody in here for early grades? Oh my Lord, it's half the class. All right, well, I could have not talked about high school today. I know y'all are like, what's this lady talking about? But for the daily activity calendar, we have activities for learning and incorporating those standards that we want our or that we need to make sure that our students master before they get to third grade, and they're all inside this daily calendar. You can teach your way through those that daily calendar and activities, and it will connect with the standards that we need for them to learn. And then, moving here, this is the new Georgia Standards of Excellence, where this is going to be really important for you all as brand new teachers. Pacing guides, curriculum maps. Am I talking foreign to anybody in here? You're going to get a big curriculum when you get your contract. And you're going to look and say, I have 180 days to teach all of these standards. What on earth happens if we have a snow day? What happens when Johnny misses 10 days? How do I teach this, all of this information, in 180 days, and have, actually before that, because you've got to have some time for review? That is what this site right here is going to do for you all when you click on there. It's going to take you to sample curriculum maps as well as pacing guides that will say you can teach these standards at the same time. These are the activities that are going to align, okay? And then you will have that blueprint. I'm telling you, we have made it easy for you. I want to say we went to standards-based education 2002, 2020. We were still unpacking standards in some districts, right? So we decided to go ahead and put this out to make it easy to just take a little bit of this lift off of you. So now all you have to do is make sure you master the content and you place it within your own master schedule, the time of your schedule, because we have the resources here to help you build out your lesson. And then we've created the essential toolkits that basically break down like your lesson plans that are aligned to the standards of excellence. And there's like a place that you can like type in, because there's flexibility there for you to add in, take things away. And you'll just click on that essential tools kit and pretty much everything that you need. How do you teach it? Figuring out, did they learn it? What do they need to know? Throwing in some things that are kind of like Kahoot, little games and things like that. I call that's assessment that's ongoing for student learning to figure out how do you adjust your instruction, right? That's just another piece here. Let me know if I'm running out of time. Am I? Okay, good. Okay, and then this is another thing. Nobody knows it all. At 28 years in, I am still learning every single day, which is why we have created a Georgia, this is free, professional learning catalog for every educator in the state of Georgia, every grade level. So when you get your TKIS standards, that's the Teacher Key Evaluation System for the state of Georgia. We're revising our evaluation system right now, which is why I didn't put it up here. When you figure out what are the standards that you will be evaluated on every year, which is going to come down to what is it going to take for you to become an effective teacher, right? Then if you see, I really don't know how to differentiate instruction well. I can teach it to one audience, but I don't know how to differentiate. Or you'll say, I really don't understand what an instructional delivery model is. They keep talking about grad release, but I don't really understand how grad release is actually utilized inside this type classroom. You get on here to our professional learning, and it's all here. You sign up for it, there's absolutely no cost. You just click on the link, and it's going to take you to all of our calendars. And then this is another piece. One of the largest and greatest resources that we have for students with disabilities or students who are inching up into MTSS. You all know you've talked about RTI, related tier intervention, and how some students may not be at that level 1 and they're moving up. Then assistive technology. The difference, I want you to look at the difference in the data. When our teachers utilize assistive technology with high incident disabilities, then the children, look at the difference in how they perform. I think that's very powerful Because in some of your schools and some of your classrooms, one student may make a difference. And when you're saying they are so far behind in reading, yet we have the assistive technology that can help you teach them on grade level, whether they are behind or not, the technology brings them up, then this is going to make a difference in how much they're able to retain at their actual grade level standard, okay? Okay, so you at least have this. Then I'm just sharing with you a little bit more about assistive technology right here. And then I gave you all of the links that will take you through those things. And that's just something that when you get there, you look at your roster of who's in your classroom, and then you go to your principal and you'll say, I have 4 students here that have IEPs. And it looks like they have learning disabilities that, where they have processing skills, which means they're probably going to not read on grade level. So this is the type of assistive technology, and it's going to be right there for you, that I would like to try or learn a little more about. What am I telling you to do? Advocate for yourself and your children, and your districts are going to know all about that. So MTSS, this is basically what we're replacing, I guess I'll say. There'll always be related tier interventions, but now in the state of Georgia, we call it MTSS. And it's a multi-tiered system of support. And the number one piece here, I won't read everything. The number one piece of MTSS that we need for you to be aware of is Tier 1 instruction. If you all provide strong Tier 1 instruction, you will have fewer students who are labeled, who really shouldn't have been labeled, just needed a strong teacher. You will have more students who are engaged and not acting up and fighting because they're not engaged in the classroom. How many of you all know people who fought just because they were bored? I do. They came and told me. So I want to tell you, students tell it all. Those are the type things that happen, or set up fights and texting and going on. That kind of stuff does happen. But whenever they are engaged from bell to bell, and you have all of the components of the lesson to keep them engaged from bell to bell, you're going to have a really strong classroom filled with rules and rituals and routines and strong Tier 1 instruction. And I'll stop right there on that one. And then here's another piece that I know that you probably have learned a little about. In Georgia, we actually have a pretty large ESOL community. Those are English speakers of other languages, right? And they typically are our first generation students, and we do have they have a right to learn and receive resources through WIDA Can Do and other resources as well. We ask for our teachers to plan, when you have a certain number of students in your classroom, to utilize WIDA Can Do descriptors inside your classes. And I do have the link for exactly how you utilize and incorporate WIDA inside your classes. And you'll know that when you walk in, because they will be highlighted on your class roster. And just a little bit more about the screeners and field modules. These are formative instructional practice guide modules, and it's just a good thing for you to know because you want to be an effective teacher. The majority of the teachers that I meet with, they tell me that when they learn through FIP, and and this is after you finish your school, that they really learn all about how to utilize instruction and assessment and the instructional strategies, academic vocabulary, all the components of a standards-based classroom. And then, so anyway, that's FIP modules, and you do have a link there so you can see a little bit about it, as well as the keys to student successes and all the resources that come with FIP. So I've also incorporated, I won't read all of this, but whatever you're teaching, I wanted to just add in the links for all of the curriculum resources. If you are teaching math in the state of Georgia, make sure you look at that Georgia Numeracy Project. It does not matter what your district's curriculum, that is an intervention math program that teaches you the strategy for how to teach math the correct way. So and it is evidence-based, and it's working across our state with all the districts that's utilizing it. But those are all of your Georgia Department of Ed curriculum resources dealing with all of our content areas. And then here are our assessment resources. I place this here because you're going to have to know what types of assessments are available to your children. And whether it is benchmarks or regular ongoing assessment of instructional practices, then you need to be aware of what does our state of Georgia actually offer. And then this is probably going to be the biggest thing for you that's going to pull just about all of the resources I shared with you today into one space. It's called Georgia Connects. And you're going to hear about the Suitcase and Inspire. Whenever you click on these links, I'll tell you something that is really wonderful with all of this when you go into the community. When you place your classroom students into our Suitcase model and the Connect model, it is going to, and then the standards are already in there. You pull the standard over, and it will actually build out the lesson for the children inside your class. It's going to already know their performance on former tests. It's going to already know if they are students with disabilities or students from ESOL background, gifted or whatever, and it actually builds out your whole lesson. So that's something that is new for Georgia. So as you're beginning, so will the new teachers in the fall with having this resource. We're really excited about this. And then, of course, there are a number of dashboards as well. Dr. Keith Osborne is actually the deputy superintendent who created all this wonderful work. Okay. Well, I think that I've gotten down. I see I have units. These are just all resources, some additional lessons and activities for you in the community, and just wanting you to have everything that I think that a brand new teacher walking in should have. A little overwhelming right now, but the resources that I would like for you to have and that for you to know are available as you begin your career in education in our wonderful state. Okay, so final thoughts. By finding the positive, supportive, energetic teachers in your school and sticking close to them, you can improve your job satisfaction more than with any other strategy. And your chances of excelling in this field will skyrocket. Just like a young seedling growing in a garden, thriving in your first year depends largely on who you plant yourself next to. Thank you all very much. I've appreciated your attention today. I know that was a mouthful. Do I have any questions? My biggest challenge, and it's probably figuring out how to get everyone to really master instruction. That's my biggest one now. You know, in teaching, it was, at the beginning, it was differentiated instruction. Back in the time, that was a new term. And when I came along, at the beginning, it was a lot of worksheets, and then they would have workbooks, and then they took all of that away. And they began working around integration of technology and in, changing over into standards-based instruction. And it did, at the beginning, it was hard because you had to learn to teach with multiple texts, increasing vocabulary, those type things. But once you got into it, it really became easier, and the students learned and they weren't bored anymore. So to be honest, in my opinion, it's really learning to become a proficient instructor. That it takes a lot of time and effort, but it's definitely worth it. Okay, you know what? I never really had a day that I did not want to be at school, but I did have some teachers that did. When we were doing the transformation and the turnaround, that's actually a good question. And I think that the way that you deal with that is you have that peer who talks you up, who takes you to a movie or out to eat or something and lets you talk through your day and also helps you talk through solutions. Because, when you're dealing with children, you are dealing with little people that have their own personalities and such. But you can build a tight relationship with them and with your colleagues that helps you get over those bad days. And you know what? Tomorrow's going to come. You start all over and you fix it. You talk to the people who work with me, they're going to say she doesn't have it now. Depends on who you talk to. Patience. You know what? I will tell you this. The older you get, the more patient you get. Oh, absolutely. I want to just tell you. So at the beginning, no, I didn't have a lot of patience. But I wanted my job. So, like I would do things like not cuss in public, just cuss to myself when they acting up. Like those kind of things, like don't let it come out. I am playing a little bit on that. But, you do learn some ways to cope with the learning. We've taken a big bird. I'm telling you, you get your lessons right. Here's the number one thing. Before you walk into that classroom, you get your rituals, rules, routines down. You have them up on that wall. When the children walk in, I don't care if that first day you have to march down that hallway 30 times till they get it right. You make sure they understand exactly what the expectations are in that classroom. And then the most important thing you do is that you start instruction on day one, bell to bell. You use those lessons. Your district's going to have lessons, and that's fine. If your district doesn't have lessons, then use ours. Use both. I don't know. Use whatever works for you. And you make sure that there's not a lot of downtime. Because when kids get used to downtime, that's when learning is not going on. And we don't have a moment to waste. Okay? So remember, get your rules, rituals, routines. Whenever they act up, whatever you said you're going to do, you do. They're going to try to find out where you're weak. You make sure they don't see that weakness before Christmas. Maybe not before March with this new crew. But the main thing is you go in believing in children and knowing that you can make a difference. I don't want you all to ever forget that group that when I showed you. That was a true story that I shared with you today about how those new teachers, the ones that had been there, bless their hearts, as we say in the South, a lot of them had just given up. And they just didn't want to do it. And if it was not for those fresh, brand new teachers that came in with hope and with saying, I can do this, and building relationships and talking to those kids. I mean, I didn't tell you all the whole story, but, before then, it had been baby after baby after baby. All of that stopped. And I know it's because they had those young ladies in their 20s talking to them, making them feel beautiful, creating beauty pageants. They were doing everything for our kids. And it was things that they enjoyed themselves outside of teaching. And I just want all of you in here to know there's some talent that you have that's going to make a difference in the life of a child that you work with, okay? Use your talents, in addition to, the instructional piece. Use your talents to build relationships, and you all are going to be real game changers. Thank you all for your time today. And
Thank you very much, Dr. Johnson. May we please give her a standing ovation, teachers. A warm, warm round of applause. You may be seated. So, I told you all were in for a treat, and you really heard it firsthand from someone who has definitely been in the trenches and understands what students need. So thank you. And I'm not sure if some of my students saw me cutting my eyes over at them when Dr. Johnson started talking about curriculum and the GeorgiaStandards.org, because my curriculum class, we just visited that site the other day, right, Jill? Where Corey, TK, yeah, raise your hands. Deasia, we were just there, Dr. Johnson, and we talk about it all the time and using those curriculum plans to build out units. So we were there, and assessments and all of that. So I'm so glad that you reiterated that and that you shared those wonderful resources with us. So thank you so much. And I would like to ask our chairperson, Dr. Medlin and Dr. Stafford, to please join me on stage. Dr. Johnson, we have something for you, and Mr. Graham and Ms. Belcher, if you will hold on for just a moment as well. So Dr. Johnson, on behalf of our department chair, Dr. Doreen Medlin, and our faculty and staff and student body here at Albany State, we would like to present you with this token of appreciation for being our keynote speaker today. At this time, we would also like to go ahead and acknowledge our presenters because they have taken time out of their busy schedules. They too have families, and it is definitely after hours, and they came out to support us today as well. And so that they can leave after their presentations, we want to go ahead now and acknowledge you all. So at this time, I would like to ask Mr. Tracer Graham to come down to the front. He is our math presenter for this evening, and you're in for a treat. He's going to do 2 sessions for us, and Mr. Graham is the math coordinator for Dougherty County School System. And so we want to thank you, Mr. Tram, for being here with us today. Mackenzie, can you come do another picture for us? And so on behalf of Dr. Medlin and the faculty and staff of the School of Education, we present this to you. Award goes to Miss Becky Belcher from Georgia's Own Credit Union. She came at 3 o'clock to set up an exhibit table, and she's staying to present to you all. We want you to be as financially intelligent as you can possibly be as you get ready to embark upon your careers. So, Miss Belcher, we too would like to thank you and present you with that token of our appreciation. We want to thank you for presenting to us today. And Dr. Jenkins, thank you for joining her, and we will have something for you as well. Thank you so much. Surprise. Thank you. Thank you.
Blonde. It's giving everything it's supposed to give. Can we give it up for our professionally dressed models?
All right, next up we have our business casual featuring Miss Hayden, Miss Rayleigh, and Miss Robinson. Okay, yeah. We have a pencil skirt. Everybody is eating the girls up. The pink blazer and the cardigan. Give it up.
Next, we have our creative wear. We have Mr. Woodruff, Miss Washington, and Miss Sheely. They showing you how to drip or drown in the classroom. We got Miss Sheely with the shirt, the creative. Give it up for them. Yes.
All right, so next we have Miss Wormsley and Miss Jones representing the day we all look forward to, Friday. We have Miss Jones representing Teach in her Teach shirt, Miss Wormsley representing ASU, HBCU Spirit Day. Looking so cute. Give it up. All right.
All right. Like the song said, we ready to party, but we not wearing this in the classroom at all. We wear this outside the classroom, okay? We got Miss Mack and Miss Brown. Them leggings may be comfortable, but don't you dare walk in that school with them on. Them ripped jeans, they cute for the trap, but don't go in the classroom like that. All right now. Next, we have Miss Sweet and Miss Scott. They is eating the girls up. The leather is eating, but don't you wear that. Your principal gonna be like, come here right quick. Come here right quick. That skirt cute. Don't wear that in the classroom. Y'all know you're not supposed to wear that in the classroom. And that concludes our show. Give it a lovely hand for our models. Sorry, they're going to do their last walk. Yes, give it up for them. Yes, yes, yes. Don't they look lovely? Don't they look lovely? And give it up for your host. Yes, yes. I hope you guys enjoyed the fashion show, what you can and cannot wear. So y'all have a lovely night.